Hi, everyone. Welcome to Redapt, produced by Rockin.Asia, where we bring in innovative leaders across different regions to address and discuss critical topics by conducting fun and lively programs. My name is Patty, your host for today. So, our theme today is going to be on diversity. Diversity is critical in pushing for change and innovation. In fact, for many corporates, there are already leaders focusing on diversity and inclusiveness. As diversity becomes a commonly accepted practice, there is also the chance that people may simply take it for granted without realizing the importance of maintaining its momentum. In this panel, we would like to revisit what diversity means in today's turmoil world. What is the new normal? So we have three awesome guests here with us today. We have Elisa from Anchor Taiwan and Anchor Ventures, one of the most active ecosystem players in Taiwan. We have Christine from 500 Startups, one of the most prominent accelerators and venture capital worldwide. Last but not least, we have Karena from W-Hub and Angel Hub, the first equity crowdfunding platform in Hong Kong. So without further ado, we'll go into our first game for today called Know Your Facts. So this is how the game goes. We have prepared 7 questions for you. Each question comes with 3 options. After I read the question, I'll cue on each of you to select your answers, and no explanations are needed. Make sure to get as many correct answers as you can, because the scoring to this part of the game will affect your selection order later on in the game. Perfect. So the first question up is, which country has the most unicorns? Can I have Elisa first?
C, the United States.
C, the United States. Christine?
C, US.
US. Last but not least, Karena?
It depends which report you're reading. It is in reality B, China.
All right, thank you for all of your answers. The correct answer for this question is actually C, the US. The United States has boasts around 194 unicorns, while China, the UK, and India have 99, 20, and 18 high-value startups, respectively. India ranks higher than countries like Germany, France, and South Korea, which have more advanced economies. Moving on to the next question. It is, how many female-founded unicorns were established in 2019? The same order, Elisa?
A, 21.
A21. Christine?
I believe it's A.
A21.
Yeah.
Karena?
I would also say A21.
Congratulations! It is A21 indeed. This shows an upward trend when compared to how it was back in 2013. There were only 4 recorded female-founded companies back then. The upward trend is far noticeable around 2018 and onward. The third question is, there are roughly 7 billion people in the world today. Where do they live? Elisa?
I would say it's B.
B.
Well, actually, Australia and Asia. No, A.
A. All right, Christine?
So I have to read these. They're like slightly. I think it's A.
A. Last but not least, Karena?
I would say it's C because there are 3 billion in Australia and Asia for sure. I mean, half of them. And then, I would say C.
Perfect. So the correct answer is actually C. There are 2 billion in the Americas, 1 billion in Europe, 1 billion in Africa, and 3 billion in Australia and Asia. Good job, Karena. So the fourth question is, what percent of global venture deal volume invested toward female-only founded startups today? Can I go with Elisa first?
I'll go with A, 6%.
A 6%. Christine?
Okay, that's A.
A. Karena?
Yeah, I would also say the unfortunate truth is A.
All 3 of you are correct. The answer is 6%. So the proportion of deals in 2019 is slightly higher when compared with dollar volume. Female only was at percent, and female and male co-founded companies 13%, making up 19% of all funding rounds. Since 2016, deal count has gone up by 2% and is flat year over year. The next question is, the absolute number of startups in Crunchbase with at least one female founder has doubled, tripled, or quadrupled in the last 5 years. Elisa?
In the last 5 years, I'll guess B, triple.
B, tripled. Christine?
A, doubled.
Doubled. Karina?
Yeah, I'm hesitating between B and C. I'll go for B, tripled.
B, tripled. So the correct answer is actually quadrupled.
Wow.
That's correct. In 2009, 9.5% of the startups had at least one woman founder, but by 2014, the rate had almost doubled to 18%. At the same time, the absolute number of companies, along with the total number of startups, with a female founder quadrupled from 117 in 2009 to 555 in 2014, which is quite quadrupled. Yes. So the next question is, worldwide, 30-year-old men have spent 10 years in school on average. So how many years have women of the same age spent in school? Elisa?
I'll go with B, 6 years.
6 years. Christine?
C.
9 years. And Karina?
I would also say C, 9 years.
The correct answer is indeed 9 years. All right. So the next question is, how many countries are there in total in Asia?
Wow.
Elisa?
I'll go with B, 48.
48. Christine?
I think B.
B as well. Karina?
I was hesitating between B and C, but just to make it more fun, I'm going to say C.
65. Okay, so
65.
according to the United Nations, the correct answer is 48 countries. So these are all the 7 questions we have to this part of the game. As demonstrated, you can see how diverse the startup innovation and energy is and how the startup ecosystem is really on the run in the past recent years. The world has been trying to improve the diversity, actually. So there are much more innovative activities in the past recent years. So we have a tie in the score. So Christine and Karina, both of you are tie. So in order to break the tie, we're going to ask a fun question. You guys just have to guess because I don't think you have the correct answer. So the question is, how many staff members are there at TSS? We have from 1 to 20. Please guess a number, and the closer person will win the question.
So it's between 1 to 20. Okay.
Yes.
I will guess 14.
14. What about Karina?
I was going with my lucky number 13.
13. 1-3. Okay, so it's very close. The correct answer is actually 18, including interns. But just for full time, it's going to be 15. So, Christine, you are 1 out of Karina, which makes you the winner to this round. And it's called Speaker Mind. And the rules to this part of the game is, up next, we prepared 4 statements. After I present each of the statement, I will cue on each of you to take a stance by saying agree or disagree. There are no right or wrong answers. We just like to hear about the different perspectives each of you take. Okay, so the first statement we have is, you should have a limited amount of snacks in the office. I know TSS does. So can I ask Elisa to start with Agree or disagree? And give us your reason.
Disagree.
Why is that?
Because, well, first of all, I think the environment is changing rapidly. So whether we're going to always have an office to work at is definitely, like changing, especially during this whole COVID and remote working conditions. And secondly, I think it's not necessarily good. Well, I guess depending on the type of snacks that you have, I think, like a lot of people might suffer from their weight gain if they continue getting a lot of snacks and chips and so on from the office. So, and I think it's good for the people to go out as well to kind of like support the local economy and also just kind of like take a walk with colleagues and so on and so forth. So in general, I think it's good to have some coffee and so on and so forth. But yeah, personally, I think first of all, whether the concept of having an office where everybody kind of like sits there the whole day and having unlimited amount of either, snacks, that's changing. And even if we still have the office, I think we can probably rethink whether that's necessary. So that's from my end.
Great answer. We definitely witnessed some of those weight gain at TSS, but we're trying to, have healthier snacks in the office. So next up, I'm going to ask Christine to give your answer. Agree or disagree?
I disagree. This is, although it's heavily biased because I'm probably one of the few people that it's not a big snacker. So I feel like that money should be spent elsewhere in your business. And unlimited must be the most expensive of the options. So I feel like nobody needs that many snacks. And from my very, I can't confirm this, but I'm sure I've read articles that have said that if you have those munchies in the afternoon, you're actually just dehydrated. So you should just drink water.
Yes, water is indeed
that's my reason.
Thank you, Christine. Last but not least, Karina, what's your answer? Disagree or agree?
Yeah, my first reaction was totally disagree, but very selfishly because I think I would gain a lot of weight. Now, I like all the ideas of healthy snacks as well, and I would fully agree under the condition that it's locked away and I don't have access to the key. But what I actually why I would agree is and we have a snacks corner here is it really gives that moment where people can get together more like informally, allow a little break, and a lot of brainstorming, a lot of great ideas actually happen when people just get together and have some good time. So not only emotionally but also physically. So yeah, I think I love the idea on doing a check on how healthy the snacks actually are.
Thank you for all three for your answers. So at TSS, we actually have snacks, and I think they're limited. And for now, we've shifted from a lot of chips to some protein and granola bars, which is better than before. So the next statement we have is, you should get a co-founder who is completely different from you. Elisa, agree or disagree?
I would disagree. Mainly because I think it's important to find diversity with the skill sets within the co-founding teams or within the team in general. But I think if the person is completely different, and I guess I'm taking that literally, then you're probably going to have a lot of conflicts and arguments and so on and so forth. I think it's important to at least be sitting on the same core values. So I think in terms of, say, for example, integrities and basically your vision in terms of what the good world will look like, I think those are actually important to have some sort of common universal thread within the team. And I think skill sets wise or perspectives and cultural background, totally, I think I appreciate always differences with people from different backgrounds. But I think overall, it's important to have that core value basically similar so that you can have a more coherent development within the team.
Thank you, Elisa. And Christine, agree or disagree?
I disagree too. I think I saw it in the same light as Elisa, that when I see completely different, I actually think that what you would want to go for is someone who's complementary to you. But in terms of completely different, I read that as like you're just not even on the same page, or it's just like you can't understand each other. I think sometimes opposites attract, and that's where I go into like you should have complementary skills. So if you're good at something, not good at something else, ideally your co-founder can fill in that gap for you, or you hire a team that does. But I think even if you have different personalities or skill sets, there has to be something common to both of you. Otherwise, it won't last. So it's kind of going back to the principles or core values or being aligned on the mission. So yeah.
Thank you, Christine. And last we have Karina. Agree or disagree?
So you should definitely get a co-founder to start with, right? Don't do it on your own. The second thing is it obviously depends on the definition of completely. And I would have tended to agree. And I have in my mind this picture of yin and yang, so the black and the white, where you really, what also my co-panelist said, build on the complementarity in terms of personality, in terms of skill set, and you want as much as diversity as possible, right? Now, the interesting thing with the yin and the yang is you have that little white dot in the black, right? And you have that little black dot in the white. So again, just to highlight, I think, yes, in terms of mindset, in terms of mission, in terms of beliefs, in terms of values, it is really important that you are united. And again, biased by my own story. So having founded WHub and Angel Hub with my co-founder, Karen, who was actually a very, very good and dear friend, and where people would tell you you never should start a company with your friend, is actually because very often you tend within your friends to be very much alike, also in terms of skill sets and interests. And we have these core interests that are really that we have in common, and these core values in common, but then we're very, very different. And of course, as with any diverse team on a day-to-day basis, it's not as easy sometimes because you have to deal with conflicting viewpoints. But that, I think, once again, obviously makes all the benefit and provides all the added value. So yeah, very, very different. I would totally agree. Obviously, fully aligned in terms of values and passion and purpose. Yes, you should be very, very much aligned.
Thank you for your answers. And as all of you can tell, we try to make the questions or the statements very extreme, agree or disagree, just so we can get the real sort of answer out of you. And so there are no right or wrong answers, and it's always good to have like complementary skill sets. But in terms of the core vision, maybe not completely different, but have different perspectives to be contributed to the same vision would be a good idea. And our next statement coming up is you should get a co-founder who is completely different from you. Elisa, agree or disagree?
I would disagree, mainly because I think it's important to find diversity with the skill sets within the co-founding teams or within the team in general. But I think if the person is completely different, and I guess I'm taking that literally, then you're probably going to have a lot of conflicts and arguments and so on and so forth. I think it's important to at least be sitting on the same core values. So I think in terms of, say, for example, integrities and basically your vision in terms of what the good world will look like, I think those are actually important to have some sort of common universal thread within the team. And I think skill sets wise or perspectives and cultural background, totally, I think I appreciate always differences with people from different backgrounds. But I think overall it's important to have that core value basically similar so that you can have a more coherent development within the team.
Thank you, Elisa. And Christine, agree or disagree?
I disagree too. I think I saw it in the same light as Elisa, that when I see completely different, I actually think that what you would want to go for is someone who's complementary to you. But in terms of completely different, I read that as like you're just not even on the same page, or it's just like you can't understand each other. I think sometimes opposites attract, and that's where I go into like you should have complementary skills. So if you're good at something, not good at something else, ideally your co-founder can fill in that gap for you, or you hire a team that does. But I think even if you have different personalities or skill sets, there has to be something common to both of you. Otherwise, it won't last. So it's kind of going back to the principles or core values or being aligned on the mission. So yeah.
Thank you, Christine. And last we have Karina. Agree or disagree?
So you should definitely get a co-founder to start with, right? Don't do it on your own. The second thing is it obviously depends on the definition of completely. And I would have tended to agree. And I have in my mind this picture of yin and yang, so the black and the white, where you really, what also my co-panelist said, build on the complementarity in terms of personality, in terms of skill set, and you want as much as diversity as possible, right? Now, the interesting thing with the yin and the yang is you have that little white dot in the black, right? And you have that little black dot in the white. So again, just to highlight, I think, yes, in terms of mindset, in terms of mission, in terms of beliefs, in terms of values, it is really important that you are united. And again, biased by my own story. So having founded W-Hub and Angel Hub with my co-founder, Karen, who was actually a very, very good and dear friend, and where people would tell you never should start a company with your friend, is actually because very often you tend within your friends to be very much alike, also in terms of skill sets and interests. And we have these core interests that are really that we have in common, and these core values in common, but then we're very, very different. And of course, as with any diverse team on a day-to-day basis, it's not as easy sometimes because you have to deal with conflicting viewpoints. But that, I think, once again, obviously makes all the benefit and provides all the added value. So yeah, very, very different. I would totally agree. Obviously, fully aligned in terms of values and passion and purpose. Yes, you should be very, very much aligned.
Thank you for your answers. And as all of you can tell, we try to make the questions or the statements very extreme, agree or disagree, just so we can get the real sort of answer out of you. And so there are no right or wrong answers, and it's always good to have like complementary skill sets. But in terms of the core vision, maybe not completely different, but have different perspectives to be contributed to the same vision would be a good idea. And last up, we have the statement, Asia's market is easier to enter than the US market. Elisa, agree or disagree?
I would disagree on the basis that a lot of time people talk about Asia as if it's one country, while in reality, I think we also just learned that there are 48 in total. And sometimes within one country, like China or India, say, for example, there are probably even thousands of different languages and cultures and so on and so forth. So I think overall, Asia is very diverse, even though, like the United States, there are like diverse cultures and so on and so forth as well. But at least, one major language and also kind of like a more similar collective background and history. So I would say in general, if you look at Asia as a whole, it's much trickier if you want to really conquer the entire sort of like continent or this region. There are a lot of cultural considerations. You need to really find a trustworthy partners and really evaluate your options in terms of priorities, in terms of your entry points for your overall cross-border expansion into Asia. So I would disagree that Asia market is easier to enter than the US markets. Obviously, it also depends on, I guess, the type of products that you are building, because certain products, say, for example, in the startup world, in the enterprise space, probably, like in the US, that's still the mainstream. So I think other than that general consideration, then you probably also need to think about the type of products, which regions has basically more presence, or if you want to really be the market leader in that space, strategically, where would be better for you to enter. So I think in addition to that general consideration, then there's a lot of other things to consider in terms of the type of products or your special markets that you're trying to conquer.
Thank you, Elisa. Next up, Christine, agree or disagree?
I would disagree as well. Good thing Elisa goes first, but she said basically what I was thinking, that a lot of times US companies will think they're going to expand to Asia. And, unfortunately, if they don't better educate themselves on what is Asia, they kind of approach it as like, these countries all kind of act similarly when in fact they're completely different. Same with Europe. Like, I think you wouldn't go into Europe thinking, I'm just going to expand to Europe, when there's so many countries, so many languages, cultures, nationalities. So I think that you have to take into consideration like each country separately. And there's also East Asia, in contrast with Southeast Asia. India as its own, one massive country. Of course, there's, like Central Asia. So it's there's just so many different countries that you would have to take into consideration each country by country individually. Whereas with the U.S., we are, many, many states and many different kinds of people, but common language, more or less, kind of, common, approach to certain things in terms of how you can penetrate that market. So it's definitely more challenging to enter Asia from the perspective of if you were to try to get into as much adoption as possible or as much penetration as possible.
Thank you, Christine. Unless we have Karena, do you agree or disagree with the statement?
Yes, I disagree with the statement as well. And first of all, also to really stress that no expansion is easy, right? There's this myth out there that particularly in the tech scene, you go viral overnight, or it's easy to expand across the globe with the click of a button. So every expansion is difficult, and I think there are the hows, and my co-panelists mentioned that as well, that need to be taken into account. And I think in each of these markets, be it the US, be it Europe, and tell me about the diversity of Europe. I'm German, my husband is French, and the diversity of the Asian market. There are certain hubs that might make it easier. So again, just thinking about Asia, be it Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, there are hubs out there that already enable, through their exposure and multicultural and diverse backgrounds and environment, to maybe ease the transition for people that come from a very different part of the world. Same thing, I'm always impressed when I'm back in Europe, in Berlin, and to see actually how international the startup ecosystem is there. And then again, from the US side, there are many examples out there, New York, Silicon Valley, where I think you can really enable to find that, potential partnership that you need to give you a smoother access to each of these different markets. And yeah, I can only highlight, how particularly here, in Asia, how different each of the markets is, and even some markets that look very similar, right? Between Hong Kong and Singapore, there's always this comparison. And we have enough companies from here who said, well, I was thinking just to copy paste what I was doing here in Hong Kong to Singapore, like around 6 to 7 million people, city state, like very, very similar environment and total different market dynamics. So again, the biggest watch out, never ever underestimate the challenges and the due diligence you have to have when you expand into different markets and countries.
So thank you for your answers. So as our guests mentioned, no markets are really easier to enter compared to the other markets, especially for regions like Europe or Asia. These geographical regions consist of a lot of different countries. So business model that works in Taiwan might not work out in Singapore. So each of them can be taken separately. So this part of the game shows and demonstrates how there are a lot of diversity in the whole globe-wide startup ecosystem. And next up, we have our last game called Build a Dream Team. So I hope you all watch the NBA or some sort of sports, because on the next slide, we will be presenting you 20 famous people known by the world right now. And each of you need to pick 3 people to become your business co-founders, except there are no repeats allowed. So according to the score ranking and the quick fun question we had just now, we'll be going around asking you to select a person each and tell us a quick reason. Once the selection has been made, the person is off the board. And the order selection will be taken from Christine to Karena to Elisa. So I'll be pressing the space button and showing you the 20 famous people right now. And we will give you a quick 10 seconds to do a scan through. And we'll start with Christine. Sounds good?
Wow.
All right.
All right. Let's get the game started.
Okay.
All right. So starting with Christine, who would be your first pick?
So I just have to. I don't have to pick. I don't pick all three right now. Just
Yes, just
pick the-
one time.
Oh, just one.
Just one. Okay, one at a time. Okay.
Okay. As someone who was probably picked in the middle or last for PE, and teams, now I feel like I've like gotten my. Now I'm on the other side, so I get to pick. Okay. I would probably. So I'll pick first one. I'll pick is Oprah Winfrey. It fits in context of the other two, which I can't pick right now, but pick Oprah because she has that, at least what I can tell, a kind of very charismatic, extroverted personality that is always going to be critical for any company in, say, a sales capacity or BD capacity. But she's built an empire, so she's very much capable of winning the crowd, winning people over. And I'm a personal fan, so I'll pick Oprah. First pick.
Great pick. Next up, Karina, please take your first pick. And remember, Oprah Winfrey is off the board now.
Yes, what a likelihood. I was going to pick the same one. The other thing is, I get given her net worth, I think that would have already made you a unicorn from day one. So anyway, I think I'll go to my second. I'll go to my second choice then, which is Elon Musk, and this is just because I definitely want to go to planet Mars while I'm still alive. So I hope that would guarantee this. So very selfish reason.
Okay. All right. So we have Oprah Winfrey and Elon Musk are now off the board. So can we have Elisa take your first pick?
Sure. I will pick Lisa Su. So I think maybe not all of the audience are familiar with Lisa. She is the chairperson of AMD. And I think throughout the last few years, after she took over the leadership over there, she has really turned over the company. And now she herself is one of the highest paid executives around the world. And I think, oh, by the way, and she has Taiwanese connections. So she basically is an immigrant with Taiwanese language, and obviously in the semiconductor world, in the entire sort of like sector over there, you can see a lot of Taiwanese connections in that space. So I think it shows that as a female leader, she was able to really make very precise and strategic business decision. And I think whenever I read about her and also saw her speech, I was always just very inspired. So I think I would love to work with someone like her who I believe will be able to provide a lot of guidance and also operational sort of like expertise when it comes to running a company.
Great. Thank you, Elisa. And Christine, you can have your second pick now, but before you make the decision, I'd just like to ask, are your two other choices still available?
Unfortunately, one is gone. So Lisa Su was part of that dream team, but I'll have to move on to the others. All right. So I think my second pick would be where's the that I saw it. I think my second pick actually would be Alfred Lin, because we need in a dream team to also have someone who has a really deep operational expertise. He's been, COO, CFO at Zappos, and now at Sequoia, sees it with companies, but definitely like the person who can kind of draw the blueprints and architect like kind of the operations of a company. Like, I feel like he would bring that kind of wealth of experience.
Thank you, Christine. Alfred is actually one of my pick as well. So, can I have Karina? Who would be your second pick?
Yeah, I see. We have a lot of similar picks. Totally Alfred, right? The investment side, and as a shoe fetishist, that would have been a perfect co-founder. Also, fully agree on Lisa. And just wondering again in terms of actually having my own co-founder be a hacker, right? An engineer. Would really love to have another co-founder who is really, really has a strong tech background. So I think with that, I would then take Chair Wang and have her as part of my co-founding team.
Okay, thank you, Karina. That is one great pick. And Elisa, can we have your second pick?
Sure. I'm going to go with another lady. So my second pick is Sheryl Sandberg. And the reason is that if you look through her career path, so basically previously with Google and so on and so forth, and obviously spending a very long time at Facebook already. And I think I really witnessed how she was able to work with a relatively young co-founder, Mark, and able to really ensure the operational side of such a giant company is really kind of like moving very smoothly. But I think the main reason that I pick her is that throughout either kind of like books or people who have worked with her, I think she is a tremendous mentor in terms of basically guiding through the teams and empowering the people in the team to grow and to really kind of like bring out that best versions of themselves. And I think someone like this is really crucial and beneficial in the company. So in addition to that, I think the fact that she has always been, at least from what I can see, a vulnerable person who is very authentic. So, like going through a lot of life crisis and changes, she basically kind of like share that relatively openly to encourage more people, and with the leading sort of like initiatives around the world to really empower more ladies and women in the professional world. So yeah, I'll pick her because I just feel like both professionally and personally, I think she will be someone good to know.
Great pick. And now we're going to have our last round of picking, starting with Christine. Who would be your third and last pick?
My third and last pick would be Dr. Dre, which I actually strategically picked last because I felt like I don't know if he would have been like one that I would have to make sure to pick before anyone else does. But it's kind of an odd pick. But he has a very creative side, of course, in terms of like spotting new artists, like his own beats. So I feel like he brings the real like creative, artistic side to a dream team. And I think that would be like in any team, that would be really important in terms of like someone who can think of like all the crazy ideas and like the moonshot ideas on like, what if we did this or that? And they could have their space to just go, crazy with kind of their artistic mind. They wouldn't necessarily be the one charting like the 5-year, plan or 5-year budget, but it's a good complement that I think with the team that I had picked so far and my own skills, it would round it out. So
that is a very interesting pick. So Tina, who's your third and last pick?
Yeah, so I have to say I'm really looking and following with interest Sophia's story, and I just started the series, the corresponding series on Netflix, right, about Nasty Gal, and it's kind of impressive what she achieved, and then I'll wait until I see the impressive fall as well. But until I finish the series, I'll make a more informed decision at this point, and I think I would go with Ashton Kutcher, and before, as I said, probably Alfred would have been a pick as well. So and I think Ashton, what is really nice, he could combine two things, the two sides of what we do here at WHub. So on the one hand side, obviously showcasing startups and helping them to attract resources and driving visibility and awareness. And, as a producer and an actor, he would be fabulous in helping us with that. But he's also, an entrepreneur and very active investor. And he invested in Skype, Airbnb, and again, on the Angel Hub side, we will really try to drive access to startup investing and democratize that and promote that. I think he would be a wonderful combination. So I would take Ashton then.
Great choices. Last but not least, we have Elisa. Who's your last and third pick?
I was really torn between two people, but I think I'll probably go with Jack Ma. So, well, first of all, I wanted to pick someone who is probably quite different from myself and also from the previous two people. Obviously, Jack is also a very accomplished entrepreneur and also investor as well. But I think I'll probably appreciate the fact that he basically started out as a teacher and basically built this entire empire. And I think from basically this e-commerce sites to now fintech and also the entrepreneurial fund and so on and so forth, not just in China, but also Hong Kong and Taiwan and overall, I think he will probably be able to provide a different perspectives and also in-depth understanding in terms of the ecosystem, say, for example, in China and also this greater China region as well. And so I think he'll be my pick. Originally, I was sort of like debating in between him and maybe Mark Zuckerberg. I don't, frankly, from what I heard, I'm not really sure whether he would be someone that I personally would want to or be able to work closely with. But it's just because from what I read, he's so different. And I think, I would probably also appreciate that different perspectives. And the fact that he has been working so well with Sheryl Sandberg. And I think that will probably provide kind of like a good foundation within the team. At least, it seems like they have worked out how to work with each other. But anyway, I think those are.
All right, so a quick round of recap. Christine, you have chosen Oprah Winfrey, Alfred Lin, and Dr. Dre. Karina, you have picked Elon Musk, Sherwan, and Ashton Kutcher. Elisa, you've picked Lisa Su, Sheryl Sandberg, and Jack Ma. So I'm going to ask you the question, are you happy with your team? And if you can swap or switch with some other people, would you do it? Starting with Christine.
Even though one of the choices wasn't my initial pick, I'm pretty happy with the team. I think it's complementary. I have no idea if we all get along. There's a few big personalities, but in this dream team scenario, I like this team.
Great. Karina, what about you?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the diversity, and which is pretty good, and I think definitely. So as I mentioned previously, I'm pretty binary. So once I made a decision, I'll go with it, and I'm super happy with it.
Perfect. Elisa, what about you?
Yeah, I get the top choice. Like basically, all of the people that I wanted, they were not chosen yet by others. So pretty happy with my dream team.
Okay, so as all of you audience and guests can see, we chose like a very diverse group of 20 people. There are no right or wrong answers, but mainly it's a fun activity to show because today when you're starting your own business, you have to find the correct co-founders to do the business with you to ensure everything after that goes smoothly. So it's just a fun activity, and thank you for participating in today's game show. And if you like us, please give our Instagram a follow and comment below what other content or questions would you like to see being presented in the game show. So thank you to our guests today for participating, and we hope to see you real soon. Stay safe and stay healthy.